of religion to the private sphere has made us blind to its contribution to our civilization today, to the development that we have today. And that is in the form of laws, in the form of values, in the form of customs with which we all interact. The word Jewry, for example, comes from the Abrahamic religions, from the Jews, who initially started to codify the laws as we know them. Canons of law comes from the Arabic qanun, the word of law in Arabic. So our heritage, whether we like it or not, is religious in origin. And Voltaire, who the French have a very peculiar view, I hope there aren't any French here, which is very different from the UK and certainly from America, in that separation means you separate but you do not suppress or you do not neglect. The French, because of the French Revolution, had their own slightly peculiar view. But even Voltaire studied religion, and it was very interesting that about Islam, he said that talking about the Turkish, that they suffer, the Muslim regime, not Turkey in particular, the Ottoman Empire in particular, they suffer nothing more on their people than the freedom of conscience and the freedom of belief. And what they have done is take these values and pretend they don't come from them. But this concept of felicity that Aristotle brought up as the key to what defines a nation, in other words, the love between people. This is what Aristotle said. This is the definition of a nation. It's a group of people who have the bonds of love between them. This concept is a concept that we see in religion as one of the fundamentals. John mentioned this on a number of occasions. Love thy neighbor. Love everybody around you. In Islam, it's mentioned in many forms. Hibul watan fil iman. The love of your country is part of your faith. This glue that binds people, without which a nation cannot exist, a people cannot exist, and a humanity cannot exist, is fundamental. And it is no coincidence that where these values are missing, whether they're in the religious form or in the secular form, as the French have them, that those nations, no matter how scientific they may be, fall apart. Those systems fall apart. So what have we got now? We've got a situation where I would humbly suggest to you that we are standing on an epoch, moment in history, where changes, fundamental changes are afoot. They're happening right in front of our eyes. We don't see them because they're happening so rapidly. But there are changes that we will need to confront. What we have is possibly the end of Western liberal democracy as we know it. Now, before you start panicking, I have no problem with Western liberal democracy in its pure form. I think it's wonderful. I have fought to defend it. But the problem with democracy, which I don't think people really have got their head around, is that it is about three things. It's about principles, it is about power, and it is about populism. And it's an issue that all democratic leaders have struggled with for decades. You have your principles, whether they're policies to do with socialism or with economic protectionism. You can't do anything until you have power. And you can only get power if you get the popular vote. And this is why increasingly politicians have begun to compromise their principles, in a way so that they can appeal to the public, and then they can do something that they want to do. And of course they accept they can't do everything, so they do a little bit. That downward slope has meant that the more you go for populism, the further you'll go away from principles. And are we not seeing an amazing situation now? And of course everybody knows what I'm talking about, because we're obsessed with Trump. But he is just the latest in a trend. What we've seen with Brexit, now I'm not to say that Brexit is a bad thing. It's not the result, it is the process by which it was achieved that I worry about. But the thing that grabs me most is there is a president who has abused the Pope in the most foul language imaginable in the most Catholic and religious country in the world. And those sort of conundrums are things that I think we need to think about. And we, as people who claim to be people of religion or spirituality, have both a concern and an opportunity. If the world is changing, and it is, how should it change? And what can we do to guide that change? What can we do to influence that change? How do we bring about that change? Now those questions are questions that I don't think any one of us can, and certainly should, answer. They're questions that require a great deal of thought, a great deal of learning from history and from elsewhere, and they require debate so that our collective wisdom, none of us has enough wisdom, our collective wisdom, our common beliefs, our common values can be reflected in a way that achieves the common good. And it is for that purpose, I believe, that Robin and Margaret have talked about this initiative to have a think tank, which will think about these very questions, which will come up with answers, and which I hope will provide people of our beliefs, our view of life, the view of life that I think will lead to the survival of mankind, to the elevation of mankind through the love that exists between, and should exist between mankind, through the justice that flows from that love and that understanding. And that leadership of thought can only come about if we have this sort of mechanism where we can think, we can articulate our thoughts, we can share our thoughts, and around those we can achieve thought leadership. And this is why I commend both Margaret and Robin for this initiative, and I hope that all of us will be able to support it, and I hope and pray that all of us will be able to think and act in a way that is good for all of us, and avoid the temptations, avoid the pitfalls that will destroy us, whether it's through our own frailties or whether it's through the influence of Satan, whether that is in the form of a devil-like being or the form of a selfish thought.